I'm Brandi Kruse. Coming up today on Undivided, a convicted child molester is a person of interest in the disappearance of an 82-year-old woman. You will not believe this sentence this man was given that had him out on the streets so early. Plus, the head of Washington's public school system says he will not comply with a DEI order from the Trump administration, and voters wouldn't do it, so could the federal government be the one to unravel former Governor Jay Inslee's chief climate achievement? That and much more coming up today on Undivided. Remember, you can support our show for just $5 a month by signing up at undividedpod.com. And right now, military veterans and first responders get 30% off their first year of Undivided by using the promo code USA. Welcome to Undivided. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to giving common sense a comeback. I'm Brandi Kruse. We've got a tough one to start the show with today, and admittedly, it's a story that's still developing. In fact, I'm kind of waiting for some news that there might be some public developments that are okay to put out on this. If you've been watching the news locally in the Seattle area, you will have heard of an 82-year-old missing woman named Marsha Norman. So initially when this came out, it was, sort of missing person. And I'll say that we get a lot of missing persons alerts related to elderly people, who wandered off is usually the case or something like that. You get the silver alerts. It was very clear as soon as this went out from the Thurston County Sheriff's Office that there was more to this case. Their missing person flyer noted that she, and what they put out initially is that she was last heard from on April 1st. So both of her vehicles, they were found still parked at her house near McIntosh Lake. But the condition of her home is what set investigators off on a real criminal tangent with this case. It looked like she had left very abruptly. There were dishes in the sink that had been half cleaned. There were some other things, tasks in the house that were just halfway done. And they learned that the day that she was last seen, she'd had dinner with her handyman. So the evening of April 1st, she had dinner with her handyman, a man named Jeffrey Ziz, 47 years old. So as they start assessing the scene, assessing where she was and who she was last with, they started to realize that this was a very serious situation, and that this 82-year-old woman, Marsha Norman, might have been met with foul play. And frankly, I think, given the preponderance of what I'm about to tell you about this handyman, Jeffrey Ziz, you'll understand why investigators were so worried so quickly, that this wasn't your sort of run-of-the-mill elderly person who'd maybe wandered off or didn't know where they were. So this is the epitome of why on this show we always talk about the soft-on-crime policies of the Democrats. Now, I think it's probably very likely, and I hate to say this, but I'm being realistic, that something very bad has happened to Marsha, given this man's criminal history, which I'll get into momentarily. But we talk all the time about these soft sentences that are handed down. And it's not just laws being pushed by the Democratic Party in Olympia that seek to help criminals, seek to reduce punishments for criminals. I mean, hell, they introduced a bill this year that would have lowered punishments for predators who seek out children for sex online, okay? That's the mindset here of what we're working with in Olympia. And then you've got these cases that go to soft-on-crime prosecutors that are sentenced by soft-on-crime judges, where you have individuals who can commit the most heinous of heinous offenses and be back out on our streets in a matter of months to re-victimize people. So one of the reasons detectives in this case were so concerned early on is because Jeffrey Ziz is a convicted child molester. Not a convicted child molester from 10 years ago, or even, 5 years ago. He had a very recent public case where he was in the news for molesting children. This is an article from the Olympian in 2021. The headline, "Former Lacey pastor charged with sexual assault crimes pleads not guilty although that headline is awful because we're talking about child victims here. So at the time he was 44 years old, he was a pastor, former pastor at a church in Lacey, and he was charged with crimes pertaining to sexual assault of his own children. He had pled guilty at the time to 9 different crimes when he was arraigned in November of 2021, including first-degree incest, first-degree rape of a child, first-degree child molestation, second-degree rape of a child, second-degree child molestation, third-degree rape of a child, 2 counts third-degree child molestation, and second-degree attempted rape. According to court documents from this case, he admitted to law enforcement to numerous sexual assaults involving children connected to his family over the period of several years. What do you think the punishment should be for a crime like that? What would any sane person think? This is an article from November of 2021. Any sane person would believe, and rightfully so, that Jeffrey Ziz is still incarcerated, right? Incest, rape of a child, child molestation. Any sane, rational person would say he's still incarcerated. You'd of course be wrong, because we now know he's connected to this missing persons case. And not only is he no longer incarcerated, but he's not incarcerated still by a long shot. We looked into the court records on this today. 11 months. 11 months. He ended up pleading guilty to a few of the 9 charges, including child molestation and communication with a minor for immoral purposes. 11 months. Not even in prison. Not even in prison, you guys. 11 months in the local jail with credit for time served. And, 6 years partial custody, community custody. In what universe is 11 months in jail appropriate for someone who admittedly molested children over a period of several years? So he's back out on the streets in a matter of months, and now there is a real belief that he is responsible for the disappearance of 82-year-old Marsha Norman from her home. I will say for now, he is off the streets. So the way that I understand that this happened is they put out an alert saying, hey, this is a person of interest. And he was picked up in Montana on warrants related to, again, my interpretation of the documents that I saw, related to violations of the condition of his release on that community custody, that 6 years post-release community custody. So if he's willing to, and he hasn't been arrested on this case yet, he's still a person of interest, but he's behind bars in Montana, awaiting extradition to Washington State for the violation of the conditions of his release. And look, I hope this 82-year-old woman is found safe somewhere. But based on many, many years covering cases like this, and I'm sure law enforcement has told the family the same thing, that is looking less and less likely. So here you have someone, this is Washington State, welcome. Here you have someone who committed, admittedly, was convicted, pled guilty to the worst of the worst types of crimes that you can commit on this earth. The molestation of an innocent child. Gets a slap on the wrist, because this is the state we're living in, and allegedly gets back out within a short period of time, is re-victimizing people. Does that surprise anyone with a brain? No. But I'll tell you what, if he hurt this woman, and if he's responsible for this, Democrats in Washington State have blood on their hands. Anybody who is involved in the decision to give him 11 months in jail for the crimes he committed has blood on their hands. And including the judge, including the prosecutor, including the defense attorney, and anyone who continues to push these soft on crime policies and support them and vote for the people, but vote back into office the people who push these policies have blood on their hands. So we'll wait for an update. I'm hoping it's a positive one. I very much doubt that it is. But in no universe should Jeffrey Ziz have been out of jail working as a handyman for an elderly woman. Absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. All right, I want to move on really quickly to an update on the tit for tat between the federal government and public schools across the country on the DEI issue. So there's kind of two separate things that public schools in these blue states like ours are being kind of pressured over. So it's the DEI issue, and then it's the, hey, stop letting dudes compete against girls. So I want to talk about the DEI issue today. So last week, the Department of Education had sent out this alert to public school districts, public school systems, saying you have, I think it was like 10 days initially, X amount of days to comply. You have X amount of days to sign a document declaring that you have absolved any diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from your districts. So it was sort of a timeline. And I said at the time, like, this is good. This is the first step of trying to unwind this DEI, gender insanity stuff from our public school system. So I will say the Department of Education just yesterday extended that deadline a little bit. So now schools have until April the 24th. But we already have an answer for what our state's public school system is going to do. Superintendent of Public Instruction Kruse Reykdal just gave a big middle finger to the Trump administration. He put out a statement saying last week the U.S. Department of Education issued a letter requesting states to certify compliance with the department's interpretation of federal civil rights guidelines. I love how he's like, interpretation. How condescending is that? Like, they're the federal government. This is how they're interpreting federal law, and you think you can interpret it better. Got it. He says, or risk losing federal funding. This is the latest attack against the rights of states to have civil rights frameworks that exceed the federal minimum standards. He goes on to say, this is also an attempt to erase diversity, equity, inclusion practices. Yeah, it is. That for decades have helped bring greater opportunities to more students. The department has stated that they intend to apply the ruling, quote, more broadly, including through their evaluation of what they determine are DEI programs, which they deem insidious and discriminatory. He goes on to say, Washington will not suppress its core values or cede our right to determine our own education system to the federal government. We will not sign additional certifications that lack authority, lack clarity, or are an assault on the autonomy of states and local school districts by misapplying a higher education admissions case. It would be irresponsible to do so. So he says, we're not going to comply. And, you know, it's interesting. I mean, he obviously just has a very ideologically driven interpretation of who has standing to do what. You know, how can, if it's a federal civil rights law, right, how can you have more standing to determine what it means than the federal government? I think that's case in point. And for him to say that they lack the authority to do this, what they're saying is they'll withhold funding, which they have every authority to be able to do if you don't sign this document that they want you to sign. Now, you have every right not to sign it. The public schools in Washington state, they can and they will choose not to sign it. But then they have the right to carry out the threats that they have made about what will happen if you do not sign it. So you have every choice in the world, but don't act as if you're not making that choice wide-eyed about what it could mean for public schools in the state of Washington. I would also just say, over the weekend, Kruse Reykdal posted quite an interesting little image on his Facebook page, which he's since deleted, I think we've confirmed. He's since deleted it. This is on his personal Facebook page. Tweeted or posted, then deleted. It's a sign that says, super callous, fascist, racist, sexist, Nazi, POTUS. I think that has to play on supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And he said, this wins had to be made by an elementary teacher. So here you have the guy who is in charge of our entire public school system, who wants us to believe, and who we're supposed to believe has the best interests of all of the families and students of Washington state in mind. While he's posting that the president of the United States, who many of those parents voted for, is callous, a fascist, a racist, a sexist, and a Nazi. Although it also says super. So the first one's super. So that one might be correct.
Super, all those words is what they're implying.
Super callous. Got it. Super fascist.
Right.
He's super racist. Super sexist, and a super Nazi. I've never heard the phrase super Nazi. Thanks, Nicole.
Super POTUS, too.
Super POTUS. There we go. See, that one doesn't work either. How are we supposed to genuinely believe that that is somebody who has who is approaching his job not based on partisanship, his personal ideology, and his politics. You can't, right? You absolutely can't. How are we supposed to believe that this is someone who respects all the families in Washington's public schools? Or, frankly, all the teachers? Because the teachers aren't a monolith either. You absolutely can't. How can you be that partisan and be the person in charge of our public school system? Well, it's because people elected him to be in charge of our public school system for a third term, which is sort of shameful. But I'll say, I tweeted out that image today. And I tagged the head of the U.S. Department of Education, and I tagged Donald Trump. I'm like, okay, this is what the head of our public school system thinks of you. He also said, by the way, I'm not signing your stupid DEI order. So what are you going to do next? I also just want to note, Nicole, because I put this in the show sheet yesterday. Have you ever looked at his bio on the OSPI website?
I have seen it.
You guys, this is the first time I've ever looked at Chris Reykdal's bio on the OSPI website. Listen to this. Can I just read it?
Yes.
Keep in mind, by the way,
he's super humble.
Just like me, super humble. Keep in mind that our public school system is by any measure failing. Test scores in the toilet, enrollment down, attendance down, like about to lose federal funding by any standard except like left-wing ideology overfloweth. Our public school system is failing. This is honest to God on the government OSPI website, not his campaign website, the bio for Chris Reykdal. Chris Reykdal is a transformational visionary leader with a career in public education and an unwavering commitment to doing what is right for students.
I think his mom wrote it.
Literally.
Maybe wife.
I mean, somebody who really loves him wrote this. Known for pushing against the status quo to meet the evolving needs of our students and our economy, Chris has spearheaded some of the most transformational changes Washington's K-12 public education system has seen in decades. If by transformational you mean smaller, because fewer students go there. If by transformational you mean they don't attend as often, yeah, that's pretty transformational. If by transformational you mean that test scores are in the toilet, yeah, I guess that's pretty transformational. Who has a bio like that on their government website? Transformational, visionary leader.
I am hearing so many things right now from people frustrated with the way that schools are having to adjust and coming up. And it's all because they misspent the COVID money. They spent it and it's no longer there. So now they're in panic zone. And I mean, tell your friends whose fault this is. This is
it's their fault.
Administration from top to bottom. Like it is not the teacher's fault. It is not the, it's teachers' union fault. Yeah. But I mean, it's not, I have people that are like, this is so sad for teachers getting laid off.
Yeah.
This is so sad. And like, get your legislators. They're all putting out, all of the superintendents are putting out this like note to, contact your legislature so they give you more money. No, like you're not educating these kids as much. Homeschool is like a normal thing now.
Yeah.
And you misspent funds that you knew weren't going to be there forever.
Yeah.
So tell your friends whose fault this is and have them go that route in their communication.
And also tell them it's their fault for voting this guy into office for a third term. And for continuing to send the Democrats who misspend money, don't listen to anyone, and as a result, they raise your property taxes and gas taxes and all of these things. So yeah, people need to be more informed about really what's happening here. Because you'll hear a lot of, I'm sure the WEA, when they lose money, will be like, Trump, they'll lose it over whatever money they lose Trump from the federal government. Mm-hmm. But they won't lose it over whatever money they lost because Democrats mismanaged funds.
Yeah.
Poor
teachers.
If they really care about school funding, they should respond to all those equally, right? Yeah. Like you're taking money from us and from kids and all this stuff, but it's only going to matter if Trump takes it. It's not going to matter if Democrats took it and misspent it. Right. Absolutely insane. So I don't know. I think we're gearing up for a showdown here. I think we're gearing up for a showdown. I want to share that image I posted of him calling. And he's not called. Yeah, he is. I mean, you share that image and you like it a lot, then yeah, you are. And it's not the first thing he's posted unhinged about Donald Trump, calling him a super callous, fascist, racist, sexist, Nazi POTUS. It's kind of catchy.
And I don't want the kids to suffer. But there needs to be some motivation.
Yeah, I don't want the kids to suffer either, but they need to learn. And I think there's probably some kids who enjoy the lax environment in our public school system, and then God forbid, well, I mean, I want it to be fixed, but then when it is, they're going to be like, wow, school's hard. Like, yeah, it should have been hard the whole time.
Right.
All right, coming up next, Republican leaders about couple hours ago had a media availability in Olympia to talk about these property tax increases that seem to be imminent. I'll also say, for those of you watching the show live, 8 minutes from now, Democrats are expected to have their leadership press conference where we expect to learn what taxes they're going to go with in order to create a balanced budget. So there's a lot on this happening right now, but we'll talk about what Republican leaders had to say in just a moment. First, I've encouraged you guys to take the First Mark Challenge. You could save money and get great insurance. So it's really a no-brainer. It's just a matter of setting aside a bit of time. So if you've got time in the coming weeks, reach out to First Mark Insurance, firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. Tell them, hey, I want to take the First Mark Challenge. I keep hearing Brandi yap about it, and I'm sick of it, and I just want to take it and see if I can save money. And, you know, the overarching thing I hear from people who've done it is, I wish I had done this sooner. Because they end up saving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year. And they're like, oh my gosh, had I done this 2 years ago, I would have been like $8,000 richer. I mean, seriously, in one instance, I heard from a viewer who's saving $4,000 a year. Let's see. Michelle says, thank you for recommending First Mark. I kept mentioning it to my husband, but he wasn't ready to look into it. We got our renewal with our existing provider for the next 6 months. It went from $3,000 to $8,000. She says they finally took the First Mark Challenge, and Brad at First Mark saved them 50%. So we're talking about real savings here, and you're going to get great service from First Mark. So firstmarkinsurance.com, firstmarkinsurance.com. The very best part is they work for you. Now, I could be proven wrong in a matter of minutes, but I find it very unlikely that Democrats in Olympia are not in some form or fashion going to increase your property taxes dramatically. And at least Republicans in Olympia want to share the voices of real people who are going to be impacted by that decision. This segment is sponsored in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org, and don't forget to participate in Olympia Madness, which is still going on this week as they look to name the worst bill introduced this legislative session. There's a lot of real doozies. All right, so earlier this morning, Republican leaders in Olympia, they've been trying to get more people talking about the property tax increase proposals versus the business tax and wealth tax. I mean, all of them are bad, right? And all of them stem from an inability to budget. But as we discussed on the show last week, I mean, you know, the business owners, they got lobbyists in Olympia. The rich people, they can just move their assets. But for regular homeowners, I mean, they don't really have advocates and lobbyists in Olympia. And so they're the ones whose voices we need to be working the hardest to raise. So Republicans gathered this morning. They also had a few individuals who would be dramatically impacted by a raise in their property taxes, including a single mom who says, look, she inherited her parents' home. And so if taxes go up any higher on it, she might not be able to live there anymore.
Over the last 3.5 years, I have struggled to make my property tax payments because of the increased value in my home and the subsequent taxes associated with the value increase. During my time in caring for my mother, I found myself continually behind. And finally, after 3 years of hard work, dipping into my retirement and selling my mother's jewelry, excuse me, I was finally able to get caught up. However, now I need to make the property taxes again due this month. Now Senate Bill 5798 is being presented and will again put me and others like me on the brink of losing our houses. In my eyes, this bill is the difference of being able to own a home, afford to pay taxes and contribute to society, or becoming a user of state resources when I can no longer have a home.
Those are the stories that we need to be hearing. And it's offensive that Democrats at every turn have come out and claimed that this budget is like a budget for the people. They're doing this for you because they don't want to cut into these important government services that they offer all of you by taking money from you and then having that money divided by a factor of 100 and wasted on red tape and bureaucracy and then giving little tiny crumbs back to you. It's absolutely nuts. Let's hear another story. This is from Bill and Alice. They're small landlords. And as we know, if you increase for the progressives in Olympia who say rent is too damn high, if you increase property taxes, it's going to increase rents. Here they are.
We're small landlords. We have probably close to 30 rentals, but we rent to a lot of low-income people, a lot of people who are on Social Security, a lot of people who have just minimum wage jobs. Some people are on public assistance of one form or another. So, you know, a lot of times we try to absorb the costs of different things that rise electricity rates, garbage rates, taxes, because we try to keep the people in the places that we've rented to them. And we've done that a number of times where we just try to, basically not raise the rent. But if this goes the way they're talking about, there's going to be a lot of people out on the street. We're just not going to be able to absorb anymore. There's just no more room, for anything that substantially is going to raise it.
Yeah, but landlord's evil, right? Big, greedy landlords. No, a lot of landlords are just like Bill and Alice. And are there bad landlords out there? Of course. But Democrats, they do everything based on the worst intentions of people, right? Let's make bills based off the worst intentions of a few people. And they totally ignore stories about people like Bill and Alice. I mean, I remember a Seattle blog that said that the phrase mom and pop landlords was a racist dog whistle because it evokes feelings of just a white, well-to-do person who got an investment property. It's an insane way of thinking. And if you can't hear a story like that or from the woman before them and be really sympathetic, and as a Democrat, be rethinking, okay, are we really helping the working class here? Are we really helping the people who we claim to want to help here? I mean, and all of that, tie all that into the rent control debate too, between property taxes and rent control. I mean, you're going to have people who can no longer afford a place to live. Is that the goal? I mean, honestly, because that is what's going to happen. I can't imagine that's the actual goal of Democrats. I sure hope it isn't. So it's baffling to try to put all these pieces together and understand what the end goal is here. What they're doing does not line up with what they're saying they want to do. So also, we heard a few things about the budgeting process from Senate Minority Leader John Braun, so the ranking Republican on the Senate side. One of the things that we've been waiting to hear is how Bob Ferguson feels about all this. He came out, he had this press conference, said, I'm not in favor of the wealth tax, but then he refused to answer questions on all the other far more significant taxes that are still on the table, such as the property tax. And Senator Braun said, we really don't know how he feels about it.
I'm not going to go into the details of our discussions. I do appreciate that he has been willing to meet with us regularly. They've been cordial discussions. We have repeatedly brought up all the tax proposals in front of us, but very specifically the property tax proposal. He has, I think, listened earnestly. He has not committed himself any more in private than he has in public, where he has said he has been very specific on one of the taxes and concerned about all of the taxes. I like to think that he understands the regressive nature of the property tax and what it will do to people across our state, but he has not committed himself yet. I wish he would.
Yeah, I wish he would too. And the fact that he hasn't committed to one way or another at this stage, so close to the end of the session, has told me that he would be willing to sign them. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but that's kind of, if you weren't, and this is the other thing really quickly before I play this last cut we have from Senator Braun. If Bob Ferguson were really intent on reaching a budget that had the least possible taxes, that was very responsible, why would you not as governor? Okay? Why would you not come out day one or during your inaugural address that he had, where he kind of referenced like, hey, we really need to work through things. Why wouldn't you save everyone time and stand up there and say, I will not sign a budget that balances with a wealth tax for XYZ. So don't even factor it in. Don't spend weeks or months considering it as a form of revenue to fill a budget deficit, because I'm not going to sign it anyway. So let's just save everyone time. And I also won't sign this and I won't sign that. And then send them off to do their work. Why would you not just do that? So that's what's confusing me here, is I would come out day one. And the same with some of the bills, like if he's going to veto rent control, which I hope he does. Why not? I just want a governor to come out at the beginning of the freaking session and say, hey, we have a short period of time to get work done. So don't even bother with this stuff, because I'm not signing this, I'm not signing that, I'm not signing this, I'm not doing that, and then set them on their way so that we can get things done faster. So it's really kind of backwards the way this is all working, and it's coming down to the wire, which freaks me out because I think people will end up getting more screwed over the more rapidly they try to come up with something. So Senator Braun also talked about how Democrats haven't really included them in anything. The governor has been talking to Republicans, But for like the last 6-7 days, Democrats have been behind closed door, really not considering the input of Republican lawmakers at all. I mean, they don't have to, right? They have enough votes to be able to pass budgets and stuff. Whatever they want is going to go. But you'd think that if you're interested in getting all the minds at the table, let's figure out this complex problem together, that they'd include as many of those legislative voices as possible. But that's just not how Democrats do business.
Any update on budget negotiations? Are you guys still kind of locked out of what's happening?
Well, you may recall we had a significant discussion on the floor of the Senate last week where we argued against going into conference because, as anyone familiar with the process and what conference means, for those of you who don't know, it just means that we designate 3 people, 2 from the majority and 1 from the minority in each chamber to go in and negotiate a budget. But what really happens in practice is the 2 Democrats from the majority in the Senate and the 2 Democrats from the majority in the House, they go and negotiate the budget, and nobody hears about it for a couple weeks till it comes out. They claimed that no, this would be very transparent. Well, I can tell you we're on, I think, day 7 of transparency, and I don't think a single one of us has heard a word about where the budget negotiations are. There's a better way to do this. We've seen a better way to do this, where you do it in the public. You exchange operating, positions as big things are negotiated, and people have a chance to weigh in. And most importantly, another thing that's not commonly known, but it's an important part of the conference process, is when whatever they decide in private in that back room comes to light, there's no opportunity for any legislator on either side of the aisle to offer an amendment. It's simply an up or down vote, and that's what they want. They want to go negotiate in secret, bring forth a budget that they like, that doesn't represent the will of the people across our great state, and vote on a yes or no and go home without any additional scrutiny.
Yeah, and that's how they operate. And that's what happens when you give one party control over everything. It's one of the things we're trying to figure out, what is a better way to get this message across to low info voters in terms of people who aren't plugged into politics, is like, if you're anywhere in the middle, if you're squishy at all and you're not hard left, you're not hard right, just the notion of giving complete unchecked control over to a single political party, which is in essence a corporation looking out for its own interests, that's an insane concept. And it would be an insane concept if it were all Republicans. You have issues that pop up in deep red states as well, where they just push through anything that tickles their fancy, no matter how much of a terrible idea it is. So that check on power, and right now, the funny thing is, the biggest check they have on their power is Bob Ferguson. God, I hate to even admit that. I can't believe those words are coming out of my freaking mouth. But he's proven to be the only real check on their power that there is. To at least say, hey, we can't go that far. You can kind of come close to the line, but not that far. Don't step over. We gotta shake things up, and there has to be some level of meaningful dissent. I appreciate what Republicans did there, and that's the most powerful thing. Look, I'm glad to hear from Senator Braun and from other politicians, but I'd listen to those personal stories all day. I would pipe that through the speaker system at the state capitol, hearing from those small landlords, from that mother, and what she's going through and trying to keep her home. Because you really think that Democrats behind lock and key in their little private closed-door budget negotiations give one hell what Bill and Alice have to say? Or what Marie has to say about how their policies are impacting them? Absolutely not. And then they'll come out and they'll say, this is a budget for the people. Give me a break. That segment was sponsored in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Be alerted to opportunities to get involved in saving this state of ours. And then also make sure you participate in the last few sessions of Olympia Madness. They'll have some voting. I think they're in the Elite Eight. Is that what, I don't know if, can I use the phrase Elite Eight? Is that copywritten? Finally?
Oh, it probably is.
Like that. They do votes Monday, Wednesday, Friday on their Future 42 X accounts and Instagram as well. So, all right, man, we're getting close to summer. You know what I bought yesterday, Nicole?
What'd you buy?
Bought like a nice bathing suit for once. You know, like, come on, you're going on vacation. It's like, I'm going to order 17 bathing suits from Amazon. Oh, yeah. One of them will look okay. It's not going to be the best quality, but I'm going to buy it anyway.
You always have the most classy bathing suits.
Well, you know, I'm not getting any younger. And I just don't think a bikini is for me. Hasn't really been for a long time.
I mean,
but like
for many of us.
Yeah. And so, you know, you want a nice classy one suit, one piece suit. I actually bought myself a really nice one for my Cabo vacation, and I put it on yesterday when I got home. I was like, dang, Brandi, that looks pretty good.
Oh, look at you.
Thanks to
Love
Eastside
it.
Weight Loss Clinic. God, I'm good at ads. Man, I'm good at it. But seriously, I mean, I just feel great. Even at my old age of 36, I feel good in a bathing suit. I'm sure there's some people watching like, screw you, Brandi.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
No, I wish I remembered the brand because, man, it was really nice and just quality. It had that thick material that gets you the right places. Anyway, but also because I've lost 40 pounds.
That's the usual one.
No, it's like Picon or something. I don't know. I got it at Nordstrom's.
Okay.
Anyway, splurged a little bit for my vacation because I put in a lot of hard work to feel confident on vacation. And you could also share that confidence with me. Check out Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Start by doing a free 15-minute consultation with Dr. Ryan Coogan and his team. And that's going to tell you whether the program's right for you. Not every weight loss program is right for every person. This one does require some pretty hardcore dedication for 60 days. But in those first 60 days, I lost 30 pounds. So where are we at right now? April 9th, May 9th, June 9th. By June 9th, you could be down 20 to 30 pounds. Think about that. That's perfect timing for summer. So do what I did, what a lot of other undivided viewers and listeners have done. I'm sure we've lost thousands of pounds collectively on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program. I just made that up, but it's got to be true. EastsideWeightLossClinic.com. Truth in advertising, EastsideWeightLossClinic.com. All right, if you're a blue-collar dude in the state of Washington, you too are getting screwed by lawmakers in Olympia, and not in the good way. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable.
Is there a good way?
It was that. Sorry, it was supposed to be kind of sexual. Maybe the inappropriate. I don't know. I take it back. Don't listen to me. I guess. Don't listen to me. So this is a funny. Can we go to the tweet first from Travis Couture because he's the one who put this out, and I thought that's just genius. Representative Travis Couture, Wadem said, "Let's balance the tax code." And then they hit rural folks with taxes on fishing, hunting, liquor, zin, and family vacations. Bro, that's not balance. That's a full body slam on blue-collar joy. And then I started to think about it. Oh, my God. They really are down there taxing blue-collar, working-class family joy. Like anything that gives you joy, they have proposed a tax on. And so some of the ones he mentioned, want to throw a nice chaw in? That's what we called it when I was a kid. A chaw.
A chaw.
Because that's what Zyn is, right? It's like a little nicotine pouch in your lip,
I think
right?
so, yeah.
But I mean, back in our day, they did it hardcore. They just took there's no pouch. There was no pouching.
Well, yeah.
You just tucked it in there.
Chew.
Is it good for you? No.
Oh, no.
But at the same time, being targeted out for taxation, that's not good for the working class. Want to fish or hunt? Taxes on that. Oh, as we mentioned yesterday, online dating.
Yeah, dating.
Want to find the love of your life. I also love that stock image I found has a guy in you can't. The phrase that we used to call them was a wife beater, which probably isn't appropriate. I'm sure there's some other name for it.
That is funny. That's the image. It came with that. Yeah, that's
It
funny.
did, yes. Want to crack open a ice cold beverage after a hard day mowing the lawn? Well, if it's in a glass bottle, there's a tax for that. If you and your buddies want to take in a sporting event, you might want to just plan to do it at your couch. Just watch it from home because increased taxes for going to a sporting event. Want to take a little family vacation, maybe go out to the coast or somewhere? Well, increased taxes on Airbnbs, so you might not want to stay at one of them. Literally any joy that the middle class and that blue-collar people have in our state, they just want to wipe away. Not to mention, on top of the taxes, increased property taxes for daring to live in a home, and also the increased gas taxes. So you name it, they're taxing it. You name it, they're taxing it. Not a lot of joy in that. Didn't Representative April Berg say, people get joy out of paying taxes?
Yes, she did.
People get joy out of paying taxes for things that make our lives better. I don't think you're going to find a lot of people, when you list these out, who find joy in paying additional taxes and fees for hunting, fishing, zin, living, breathing, gassing up, going on vacation, going to a sporting event, drinking liquids out of a glass bottle, or online dating. Not a lot of joy in that. Pretty unbelievable. All right, coming up next, I think everything's coming together on the tariff front.
I don't think it's over. But.
It's not over, but things are happening. So we're going to update on that. And also, could President Donald Trump be the one to unwind Jay Inslee's precious Climate Commitment Act. First, if you're thinking about selling your home at some point this year, reach out to our friend Wes Jones at sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com. Look, there's a lot of real estate agents out there. I'm sure they're all perfectly nice people. You might have seen their face plastered on a billboard or for some reason on the park bench. A lot of benches with ads of real estate agents. You ever notice that? Yeah. It's like, I don't know if that's where I'd choose to. I don't want people sitting on me, you know?
Yeah, but you're right out there.
I don't want to be sit on.
Everybody drives by, walks by.
Yeah, I suppose in buses and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, not my choice for where I'd advertise my services. Anyway, so reach out to, I don't know, the real estate agent you saw on the park bench, but also reach out to our friend Wes Jones at sellwithwes.com. He's been doing this for a long time. He's been through all the ups and downs in the market, and he's going to help you do two things that will help your home sell quickly for the best price. He's going to make sure your home is properly priced when it hits the market, because this is a game of strategy. And he's also going to make sure your home is properly prepared for sale. And that might involve some cosmetic upgrades. He can help you manage those. I mean, he can completely take the projects over if you want, and you can even just pay for it at closing. So I think that's a cool service. And then also their marketing material, it's just beautiful. I mean, the videos and the photos that they put out there to make sure that you've got good buyers, the eyes of good buyers on those listings is awesome. So sellwithwes.com, sellwithwes.com, a better way to sell your home. Okay, so there's a lot rapidly happening. That's why we try not to be a breaking news show, because somebody could watch the show back in 2 hours and be like, Brandi, that's not where things are at right now. So this is my caveat that, you know, the markets change rapidly, but when we're doing the taping right now, the live show, this is what's going on. So Donald Trump put out a post on Truth Social, and he said, I'll just read most of it. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I'm hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States of America to 125% effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I've authorized a 90-day pause and substantially lowered reciprocal tariffs during this period of time. So the countries that came to the Trump administration and said, hey, we want to negotiate, we'll help make things more fair. There's a pause on these increased tariffs. And then for China, 125%. Let's see. Chuck Schumer reacted to all of this saying, you know what, Donald's just not thinking all this through.
We know that Donald Trump doesn't think things through. We know that whatever hits him for the moment, he does. But on something so vital, like the whole economy of America, the amount of money people have in their pockets and their livelihoods, on something as vital as this, yes, it leaves you agape at what he is doing and how much damage he is causing and how little he cares. He thinks it's a game. He almost thinks it's fun. Well, for 330 million Americans, this is not fun at all.
I don't know, I'm kind of having a good time. But it's interesting what he said there at the beginning. He doesn't think things through. He doesn't think things through. He just does it. Something comes over him and he just does it. It's interesting because here's Donald Trump on Oprah 35 years ago.
What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined, I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing, this country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
1988. 1988, saying the exact things he's saying now and doing the things he said he would do 35 years ago if he was ever elected president. But Chuck Schumer says he doesn't think things through. Oh, and it wasn't just in 1988. He's been saying this stuff continually ever since then. Here's what he said in 2012 when he was
somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do?
Mitt Romney.
So easy. I'd drop a 25% tax on China. And I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you motherfuckers, we're going to tax you 25%.
Yeah, he's been the same guy pretty consistently. And so for Chuck Schumer to say he doesn't think things through, he's thought it through. He's thought it through for at least 35 years. And he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do and what he campaigned on when Americans put him in office. And this was the headline from Forbes 1 hour ago. Stocks shoot to historic gains as Trump announces 90-day tariff pause. What a difference a few days can make, huh? Yeah, just hold on, take a deep breath, have faith. Not over yet, but trending in the right direction. Okay, so another great thing that's happening out of the White House, one of the things Donald Trump talked an awful lot about on the campaign trail is this idea of energy independence and also making sure that energy is affordable for Americans. And one of the things that we're now hearing from the Trump administration is they believe that a lot of the quote unquote climate policies, and I say that because they don't do much for the climate, they're just a money grift, that have been passed in blue states are counter to the Trump administration's efforts to make us energy independent, to make sure that it's affordable for you to drive a car, for you to heat your home, etc. So they put out this, the White House put out this directive basically saying it's looking into some of these practices in states like ours that they call overreach into the success of American energy. So as you're reading this, you sort of start to understand that a lot of former Governor Jay Inslee's policies are going to be under the microscope as part of this. It says, today, President Donald Trump signed an executive order aimed at securing America's energy dominance by removing unlawful and burdensome state-level impediments to domestic energy production. The order directs the Attorney General to identify and take action against state laws and policies that burden the use of domestic energy resources. The Attorney General will prioritize taking action against laws and policies purporting to address climate change or involving environmental, social, and governance initiatives, environmental justice, carbon or greenhouse gas emissions, and funds to collect carbon penalties or carbon taxes, which is our CCA, is a carbon tax. And then the Attorney General will submit a report to the President detailing actions taken and recommendations moving forward. So I'll read part of this other aspect of the statement they put out, but I think that really touches on some of the policies that have been put into place here. It says, President Trump believes that an affordable and reliable domestic energy supply is vital to America's national security, economic prosperity, and foreign policy. And they say when states purport to regulate energy beyond their constitutional or statutory authorities, American energy suffers. States like New York and Vermont have imposed retroactive climate change extortion laws on energy producers. I mean, that's happening here. Why does he keep leaving us out of the conversation? Please, for the love of God, Mr. President, name us. He says these state policies raise energy prices, disrupt supply reliability, and degrade quality of life for families nationwide. Affordable energy is essential for heating homes, fueling vehicles, and powering industries, all of which are jeopardized by ideologically driven state laws. Thank you for saying what needs to be said. And there's so many of these, and it's been proven. I mean, you know, they want to say, like, trust the science, facts, and data. The data shows that a lot of the climate policies that Governor Inslee put into effect, he never reached goals. In some instances, they went backwards, like on carbon emissions and recycling. So he called himself the climate governor, but it was all in name. It wasn't actually in productivity or improvement. And with the Climate Commitment Act, which is just a money grab for state government to fund ideologically driven, climate adjacent policies. I mean, they're taking hundreds of millions of dollars a year and squandering it. Absolutely squandering it, and a tiny percentage is actually being used on policies to reduce carbon emissions. So it's all a grift. It's all a moneymaker. It's so the people who passed it one of whom is already working in the climate sector, benefiting from the Climate Commitment Act. It's why they fought so hard to keep it and to lie to voters and to mislead voters so they didn't repeal it in November. And we already know that because voters didn't repeal it in November, our gas prices are going to continue to climb. So Jay Inslee's not happy. And when Jay Inslee's not happy, of course we are. He did like a article for someone. Was it Time?
Time Magazine.
Time Magazine.
That's
I'm not
from
reading
a few weeks ago.
Don't care.
No.
And then he tweeted this today. Washington State's progress in building a clean energy economy shows just how boneheaded Trump's efforts are to stop clean energy job growth. I love how Jay Inslee calls someone boneheaded. Like if I had to, I'm sorry, if I had to define boneheaded, I would put a picture of him in the dictionary. Anyway, so Jay Inslee's not happy about it. And that's because I'm sure Jay Inslee is already cashing in on his climate grift. Look, I think there's a lot of people, I've said this so many times, and I always just feel the need to reiterate it because I'm not like anti-environment, anti-climate, or whatever it is. Of course, we all want to take good care of this planet of ours. And I just am always so annoyed that it's the folks who live in this like trash heap ridden gutter sewer areas of Seattle who are telling those of us who live in these pristine areas that we take care of and that we're stewards of, that we're the ones who hate the environment. Like, give me a break. But I think there are a lot of people who might feel differently about the Climate Commitment Act if it was making substantial improvements to our environment. But not only is it not doing that, the research that has been done has shown that even if every single climate policy or goal that Governor Inslee enacted or set was met, it would result in a minuscule, if any, impact to the overall temperature of the climate. So it doesn't do anything. It's a money grab. That's all it is. And the Trump administration sees it for that. I wanted to ask you guys as we get into the summer months. So we're going to see a lot of headlines, unfortunately, in the coming weeks about gas prices. They're going to continue to climb and climb and climb and climb in Washington, in California, in Oregon, and other states where they're typically high, like Hawaii. So I wanted to know from a fiscal perspective, for your family, a budgeting perspective, how much will the price of gas factor into your summer vacation plans? Nicole, how much does it factor into your summer vacation plans?
Well, we're pretty much working this summer, so.
Wow. Is that a low-key dig? Or like, what is that?
Well, no, we're going on vacation in the spring, see?
It's true.
But yeah, so I mean, it does impact how much I drive, I think, and I'll carpool more, things like that. But I guess it doesn't really impact me, but I also don't have family. I'm not going on big road trips.
Yeah.
I have family, but they're all close and it's not children.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm the best example of this.
Well, to me, one of the horrible things about what they're doing to gas prices through the CCA is a lot of spending at the pump is unavoidable for working class families. It's unavoidable. So like, yeah, could you cancel your trip to the coast? But at the end of the day, like your driving is unavoidable. You're driving to work, you're driving your kids to and fro or whatever it is. And are you really going to rob your kids of a fun trip out to the coast or somewhere like that because gas has gone up 50 cents a gallon? So then they absorb it, right? And for a family that's just like, this is the only vacation we're going to do this year. It's going to cost more than we expected. And so you're going to buy, you can't just create money out of thin air. So it's going to take money from something else. So I don't know that it's going to have this overwhelming, like nobody's going to drive anywhere unless we really start to see like up in the upper fives or even, God forbid, sixes, which could certainly happen. For subscribers on Patreon, Locals, and X, we took our poll today. 56% say not at all, 35% say somewhat, and 9% say a lot. Let me see. Jack says, we're choosing to skip paying $900 for our car tabs, 2 vehicles, and we'll use that money to cover the cost. We figure living in the Seattle area should take advantage of the fact no laws are being enforced these days. I don't blame anyone. I'm not a big encouragement of law breaking. I don't blame anyone who doesn't want to pay for their car tabs. $900 for 2 cars, absolutely insane. I live right outside that tax zone. And when I moved, I had a crappy car living in Seattle, paying 3 times the cost to renew the tab than I have now. And I have a pretty nice adult car now.
Yep.
And it's still 3 times less. It's just ridiculous. Let me see. Kathleen says, I'm not traveling much in Washington. I wonder how much the gas tax affects tourism in the state, though. Sandy, I am very lucky that I rarely use my car for more than just traveling around town, and I still work from home. Yeah, that helps, too. Let me see.
I do think it impacts people's everyday decisions. So you might try to do something that, hit the grocery store on their way home from somewhere so you don't have to leave your house again, things like that. I think it does make people think differently. And those are probably things we should always think differently about and save gas, save time, all the things. But if it goes up to where you're saying, that will impact us all. Like I won't be able to drive to my parents a couple times a week. Like it's too far or whatever it is. Like that's a lot. Yeah. I mean, if it goes up to $5-6 a gallon, that is significant.
It'll definitely be in the fives this summer. I mean, it was in the fives last summer at some point, wasn't it? In the summer before?
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully areas. Trump bringing this gas down, it will help ours stay manageable, but it should be better.
But then they're about to increase the gas tax 6 to 9 cents a gallon.
Right.
So all these things are happening at once. I bet we hit, mark this bet.
Okay.
I bet we hit $6 a gallon at some point this summer. Yeah.
That is terrifying. It really is.
And I'll, if I lose.
What's today? April 9th.
if I lose, we'll walk down the street and I'll buy you some ice cream.
Okay.
I don't know. That's what girls like. Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad it won't affect a lot of people, but there was also people saying, well, I'm not vacationing in Washington anyway, so I'm going to go somewhere else. And then if you're vacationing somewhere else, like let's say you go to Idaho, you're only really paying that high price on the gas that you have in your vehicle to get to the border. And then you go to Idaho and you wait and you fill up there. Right. Like I'd roll into Idaho on fumes. and then I'd gas
definitely.
Up in Idaho.
I do that sometimes to roll into the Angel of the Winds.
Sorry, my nose itches.
Gas stations.
Oh yeah, that's the one you like.
Yeah, it's the cheapest in the state, I'm pretty sure.
If you ever want to run into Nicole or stalk her, just wait at the Angel of the Winds gas station.
My voice has been recognized there.
Yeah. You, Nicole? I heard you liked this gas station.
No, he literally said that.
Oh my God. Oh, it's too much.
But there was I also think it'll be interesting to see how it affects planes and planes, trains, and automobiles, right?
Yeah.
But planes, flights, because it's only here. So will it just affect flights leaving Washington? I don't know how that works.
Well, and I don't know what the jet fuel difference is. I don't know what the jet fuel difference is.
I don't know. We got a well, we'll have to go into it, but we got a message from somebody that owns a gas station, and he said diesel and regular went up the same amount at the same time. And I don't know, it seems like they're prepping for something, or there's something going on in the market that it's really affecting all the gas in the state.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Hey, I got to itch my nose. You put that show pull back up for me. So people don't see, I got to itch my nose. I have such an itch. Just put it back up for me. They're all my friends anyway. They don't care if I just take a second. Like my nose itches so bad and I'm going to sneeze.
I swear she's not picking it.
Well, I mean, a little bit, because it itches in there. Okay, you can take it down now. Look, we're all friends here, okay? If they were going to stop watching because I'm weird, they would have stopped watching a long time ago. All right, let's save that main story for tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I think we're talking to Zach at some point this week about the markets once things settle down. I know he's traveling around and things have been a little bit crazy, but we're hoping to, after things sort of seem to calm down a little bit, talk to Zach Abraham about what's happening with the markets. Look, Zach and his team specialize in managing risk at Bulwark Capital. And that's why I always tell people, if you want a second opinion on your retirement portfolio, reach out to Zach, get their free Know Your Risk review. And it's like a second opinion. Just bounce it off of him, no obligation. See what he thinks about how your money is currently being managed and whether he might make different decisions. Especially, I mean, now is the perfect time, obviously, with everything going on. How well inoculated is your hard-earned retirement? So start by going to knowyourriskradio.com. You can do the free risk review there. They'll do a full reveal of how Bulwark is always looking for opportunities to lower your risk, lower your cost, and give your retirement as much upside as possible. Because you only get one retirement, people. You don't want to squander it. There's no reason not to get a second opinion. It's similar when I talk about First Mark. Why would you not just see if they can save you money? Why would you not just get a second opinion? You just got to set aside a little bit of time and have them go over it for you. So knowyourriskradio.com. And he's a lot of fun, so I'm sure that would be a fun experience. knowyourriskradio.com. Zach cracks me up. He's like
a funny man.
He's like gung-ho. I mean, he was doing Doge Watch last week from, where was he? Tahiti? This guy cares so much about the stocks and what's happening. He did Doge Watch with us last week from Tahiti. I was like, I'm not doing Doge Watch from Cabo. So that's dedication for sure. All right, we'll get to some comments here. Nicole put some in here for me.
Just a few, but I'm working on it. I've been trying to watch the press conference. It doesn't look like they've come up with a plan yet. So we'll have to go through the press conference, but it doesn't look any
So
any
tomorrow
major
we'll figure out what Democrats are up to and give you a full sort of analysis of that. Papa Woody, we missed this yesterday, $5 super chat. On the topic of rent control and assistance, most blue collars never qualify for any of that assistance, yet were the most negatively affected. Yeah. 100%. And like when they said on the property taxes that, oh, we have carved out, help for seniors and veterans. I heard from so many seniors who said, I wouldn't qualify for that. So it's like they're going to help a small, tiny little sliver of people and be like, we're doing good, don't worry. And they're totally not doing good, obviously. Joanne, hi Joanne, says, isn't this what the state of Washington is going for? They don't want us to own a home, so they're going to do everything they can to make sure we can't afford to live in them. These Democrats need to be stopped. They have had control way too long in Washington state. Wake up, people, but I don't trust our voting system either. Way too easy to cheat. Let's see. Bakengok, 17. I'm sure that's, I don't even know. I just chatted with someone on Nextdoor, which made me sad. They blame this off on crime judges in Washington state. They say the judges can't punish anyone because of our laws. Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean,
it's that and the judges.
Yeah, and the judges. Because judges can give exceptionally low sentences and judges have discretion to give exceptionally high sentences. So even if a judge doesn't believe that the standard range for a crime is appropriate, like by law, so even if they've got the standard range, which is the instance in every criminal case, and ideally the sentence is supposed to fall somewhere on that range, they can say, I'm giving an exceptional sentence, here's why. So judges can make these decisions. Let's see. Sean, no extreme is capable of actually governing, and Washington government has been overrun by activists and unions. 100%. No, yeah. If you have all one side, I don't care if it's right or left, I mean, I'd have my preference, certainly. Or if you have like the progressives in charge in Olympia, that's never going to go well. Just like you wouldn't want like the Looney Tune right-wingers in charge in Olympia. That wouldn't go well either. They'd also be focused on a whole bunch of ideological stuff that's not necessary. You see that in red states. We talk about it sometimes in Florida and Texas. Robert Parker, the teachers and their unions knew that COVID money was a one-time deal and they were told not to hire and give raises with it. They did it anyway. Let the layoffs begin. I agree. Matthew, that landlord is what it looks like to actually care about people who are low income and on fixed incomes, opposed to Olympia Democratic politicians who say they care. Right, 100%. And, the point they're making, and the landlords who we played a clip from earlier, is they don't want to pass every single added little fee on to their renters. They try not to do that. Their renters are low income, and so they just absorb it. But there comes a point where you're not making any profit at all, or you're even losing money. And they can't afford to lose money. Nobody's going to be a landlord as a charity case, right? Or for free, because there's a lot of work and time that goes into that. That's not why you have a rental property. So it's like the government expects landlords to just be okay with losing money, and nobody's going to be okay with that. It's wild stuff. Let me see. Barron, accuse your enemies of what you're doing and then attack them for it. We are the enemies. Classic rules for radicals. Barron says, name one out-of-control red state, Brandi. Look, I'm not saying out of control, but I am saying there was a law, I was going to talk about it this week, it was introduced in Texas. And it was like the opposite of Washington state trying to like regulate parents on extreme gender ideology, like you must comply. But it was like punishing parents who didn't buy into radical gender ideology. So just like a different side of the same coin. We've talked about some of those instances in Florida too, where I felt like Ron DeSantis was going too far in pushing sort of conservative ideals on schools, etc. So it's just a different side of the same coin. But yeah, I mean, Washington is off its rocker, comparatively speaking. Let me see. Gary, state legislature forgot to pass an extra tax on holding a public office. It is a privilege that needs taxing. Oh no, they gave themselves raises. So don't worry about that. Jackie, if you have less students, you need less teachers and support staff. It's like construction. Less jobs means you need less workers. It sucks to be laid off, but that's the business. I do not understand why the public school system does not understand this. It's like they think they should continue to grow and get more money as they perform worse and have fewer students. In what world does that make sense? It doesn't, but it's all about the money in the Washington Education Association. All right, with that, let's get to our closing sanity check. All right, so we talked about Trump's plan with tariffs. He's going to pause them on 70 so or odd countries who have come to the bargaining table, and he's hitting China with 125% tariffs. Here's White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt.
As you all know, the president just put out a statement announcing an additional tariff on China. The tariff on China will now go up to 125% because China imprudently decided to retaliate against the United States. And as I said at the podium yesterday, when you punch at the United States of America, President Trump is going to punch back harder.
Amen. And that's the way it has to be for anyone to find you believable. That has been our closing sanity check. That has been today's episode of Undivided. Thank you for being here. We'll be back, of course, with our regular live show tomorrow. Got a lot of good stuff going on. We hope to have a better idea of what Democrats are going to do on the tax front. They're still speaking, Nicole. As we speak, I think their press conference just wrapped up. So we're going to wrap our noggins around that and make sure you get a full breakdown of it tomorrow. If you've not signed up to support our show, I don't know why not. It's so good. It's just totally worth $5 a month. And if you're a veteran member of the military or a first responder, you can get 30% off a whole year. So go to undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com, click on support the show, and then you can use the promo code USA for 30% off. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Back here. Same time, same place, same people. Maybe some new people. I don't know.